Atlas Prime, the Bedrock Boxer. Today I have an Atlas melee build to share, one that can comfortably take on level cap enemies and have no issues with surviving. You'll be able to clear congested areas of enemies with ease, simply bulldozing your way through enemies with your bare fists. Starting with his passive ability, whilst on the ground Atlas is immune to knockdown effects. It's useful as a passive as it means we're not tied to using Prime Sure-Footed in the Exilus slot, well, unless you're Nightmare Frame. It's also not mentioned as part of his kit, so I will mention it here, but Atlas has a rock meter on the bottom right of his screen. The bar goes up when Atlas collects rubble. Rubble is dropped from enemies that are affected by his third ability, or dropped when his fourth ability ends. Moving on to Atlas's first ability, Landslide, Atlas launches himself to punch an enemy. This is a 3-hit combo, and with each consecutive punch, damage is increased and energy cost is decreased. This is going to be the main focus of the build, as we want to run around boxing literally every enemy we come across. For our second ability, we are using Nourish. Now, this is our Helmwith option, and it's for a numerad of reasons. Firstly, Nourish gives us an energy multiplier. Now, this is useful to help our energy economy as we are casting our abilities a lot, particularly our third, and I will explain soon. Nourish also provides viral to our first ability, Landslide. This is because Landslide is actually an exalted weapon, meaning it can be directly modded. Lastly, Nourish also has a viral AoE wave every time we take damage. This is useful for passively priming enemies. Atlas can petrify enemies from looking at them. Petrified enemies are 50% more vulnerable to damage, and on death they drop rubble for Atlas. It drops 1 rubble when they die, which when picked up grants Atlas either 50 armor for his passive or 50 health. Rubble will always prioritize health over armor, and if even 1 point of health is missing, then it will give health. If a petrified enemy is killed by Landslide, then when it is picked up, this gives either 75 health or armor. This ability is affected by line of sight, and the degree angle can't be improved, which only extends to what is in front of Atlas. Petrify doesn't work on enemies that are frozen or have overguard, so for this reason we are not using anything that inflicts cold on enemies. Thankfully, rubble can be picked up by a companion mod, so Vacuum and Fetch are lifesavers here. It wouldn't be quite fun looking around for a piece of rock on the floor just to build up our passive. Atlas's fourth ability, Rumblers. Atlas summons 2 stone warriors to fight for him. Upon summoning, enemies in a small radius are petrified, and when the Rumblers are defeated, they drop rubble. Unfortunately, these guys don't scale with enemy level, and they stay at level 30 throughout the entire mission, so they do fall off quite heavily at level cap, but hey, at least they're useful for the rubble drops. Moving on to the build. For our aura mod, we are using Steel Charge. Now, this increases the squad's melee damage by 60%. Note that this is an additive mod, not multiplicative. Either way, the focus of the build is our first ability from just punching things, so this just helps us boost the damage that it does. We are also using the Tri-Umbra mod set, consisting of Umbral, Fibre, Vitality and Intensify. These are all used as they all benefit from each other. This just helps us buff our health and armor and strength, because we will be health tanking in this build. This also helps us get just to over 700 armor base, so we can benefit from arcane persistence without relying on our passive for armor. We are using the mod Rubble Heap. This mod just doubles the damage and range of our Landslide if we are at over 1400 armor or over on our passive ability. As an added bonus, it also makes it cost 0 energy. Very useful mod for damage, as we are primarily building around Atlas's first ability, Landslide. We will be using Primed Flow to boost our overall maximum energy pool. As we will be casting our abilities quite often, we want the energy pool required to be able to do so. Now, I am using Stretch, but if possible you should be using Arc and Stretch here. This is because for this build you will be able to proc the energy upon electricity proc, further boosting our energy economy for this build. I'm unfortunately not able to run this because I lack the mod capacity in order to run the mod. We are using Hunter Adrenaline. This is to give us energy based on how much health we lose. Because we are health tanking, we are able to regain our health and in turn get energy from it. This helps our energy sustainability. Keep in mind that you don't gain energy if you have Overguard active with this mod equipped. We are using Rolling Guard. Now this is a very important survivability mod for the uh-oh moments, and it also acts as our status cleanse, as nothing else in our kit either gives us status immunity or status cleanses. Now why do we want status immunity? Good question. Heat/viral and magnetic procs will kill you. Heat and magnetic especially, as heat can strip your armour, and because of this it can disable your arcane persistence. Magnetic will just straight up disable arcane persistence. If you have enough mod capacity for an Exilus mod slot, congratulations. I would either run Power Drift for more strength or Preparation for max energy on spawn, as it takes a bit of time for Atlas to charge up, as he needs to collect rubble and build up combo. Moving on to Arcanes, no surprise, I've mentioned it previously, but we are using Arcane Persistence. This is because this is a health tanking build, so of course it wouldn't be possible without this Arcane. For our other Arcane, we are using Arcane Blessing. Because we are health tanking, we're using Arcane Blessing to boost our overall maxed health. This takes us to over 3000 health at max stacks, and that's equivalent to 6 seconds of health gate thanks to persistence. For our Archon shards, we are using 2 Tau-forged casting speed shards. This is for quality of life in casting our abilities faster, but it also affects our exalted melee weapon attack speed. We are using 1 Tau-forged equilibrium shard to help us passively get energy. This helps more early on into the run when enemies don't do as much damage to you, so Hunter Adrenaline isn't really benefiting much. Our last 2 shards are melee critical damage shards to boost our critical damage on our exalted melee. We're able to hit the bonus energy threshold thanks to primed flow. Moving on to weapons, we are using Paris Prime purely for the dexterity arcane in order to keep our combo up for as long as possible, as we are using Madurai and not Naramon. If you want to use Naramon, then you don't have to run Paris. Well, it doesn't really have to be Paris that you run, it can be any primary as long as you have the Dexterity Arcane equipped. For our secondary weapon we are using the Furis. Now unlike with both my Grendel and Zaku videos, the Furis is actually incorporated into the build. You may have seen my Atlas mod configuration and thought, well, how are you health gating? Nothing in Atlas's kit or Helminth gives any health. And the answer to that question is Furis, or more specifically the mod Wings of Purity. This mod has 20% lifesteal. Now because our max health is so high, all we have to do is shoot Furis at an enemy and we will quickly regenerate to full health. This is very comfortable thanks to our high base health pool. For the build you can swap Frostbite out for Jolt to make corrosive, since Nourish gives free viral to our weapons. I don't do this because this Furis is for my Excalibur build and I like playing with generalised loadouts. For our melee weapon we are using Praedos. I like this purely for the parkour velocity. For our exalted melee, our arcane of choice is Melee Influence. This is because killing a massive swarm of enemies in one punch fuels my dopamine levels and is also incredibly effective at killing. For our mods we are using Weeping Wounds. Now this is for more status chance that scales with combo. This is in order to proc more electricity procs, which in turn have a chance of proccing influence. Blood Rush is used for more critical chance that scales with combo. Galvanized Elementalist is for higher electricity damage. Galvanized Steel is for more critical chance and critical damage. Shocking Touch is to give our exalted melee weapon electricity. Spoiled Strike is for more damage, and the negative here is harmless, as attack speed doesn't affect exalted melees, casting speed does. Primed Pressure Point is used to increase our base damage. The same can be said for Conditional Overload. as we have more base damage since our Furris is used to sort of prime, and we have our companion to help prime enemies as well. Our companion of choice is Nautilus Prime. We are using Nautilus for its grouping ability with Cordon. Since our third is capped at its degree angle, it helps pull enemies into our line of sight. Other important mods would be Synth Deconstruct for energy orbs, Duplex Bond for both energy and priming, and Tenacious Bond for bonus crit damage on our Exalted melee. The companion weapon we're using is Burst Laser Prime. This is purely to help us achieve the 50% critical chance we need to activate Tenacious Bond. Other than that, I've got it modded for both heat and corrosive to help armor strip, since we have no armor stripping capabilities in this build. The gameplay loop is actually quite simple. The build is literally just punching things and watching them fall over, but we do have some prerequisites in order to hit to optimize punching. We first need to hit 1400 armor as soon as possible, so we need to petrify enemies and cast R4 to get rubble to convert into armor for our passive. You can't lose health here, so rely on Furris until you get to max health. Once at 1400 armor, you can shoot things with Furris to heal or prime. You cast Nourish, you occasionally cast your 4, and then you go crazy with your first ability just punching things. If you have an abundance of energy, you can cast your 4 ability quite often, as it will crumble your current rumblers and turn them into rubble. So it's a nice way to get rubble without petrifying enemies. Now that is my Atlas build for Levelcap Void Cascade. I hope you guys can test out this build for yourself and have just as much fun as I am using this. If you guys mod Atlas differently, or have any interesting ideas on how you play or mod Atlas, feel free to comment it down below. I'd be pretty interested hearing people's opinions. With all that being said, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.